Hello again. It's Jimmy Ray with Chantel Ray Real Estate with my buddies Josh Chilton and John McLaren. And we're here today with these professional types to answer 5 of the most asked questions that you may have. Because we've talked to a lot of yous and we know what questions you have. So we're going to try to answer those for you in the next 10 minutes with these two guys, Josh and John. So my first question, guys, is people want to know how much it's going to cost in commission. And let's do both sides. Let's do, if I'm selling my house, what's the commission going to cost me? If I'm buying, what's that? How's that all work?
Sure.
John, that's great. That's a great question. So let's start with the buying side. So the good news is when you are buying a house, the seller is 99% of the time paying your agent's commission. Right. So you're going to go out there, get great representation when you use Chantel Ray Real Estate and get to go shopping and have somebody represent you. And the seller's going to pay for it. So from a buyer's perspective,
Right. And the only 1% of the time that you're referring to is a for sale by owner.
That's right.
Will not pay a buyer's agent's commission.
That's right. That's right. So they're very rare that happens.
Very
I mean,
rare.
even most for sale by owners know and are prepared to pay that buyer's agent's commission. So that's not even all the for sale by owners out there.
They want the agents to bring in, their buyers.
Yeah, most for sale by owners know they're going to save the commission because nobody's listing their home, but they still know it's highly likely a buyer's going to come with an agent and that they're going to have to compensate that agent.
So if you're selling your home and it's a regular sale, it's not a for sale by owner, it's using agents, just be prepared. You're going to pay that 6%-ish commission.
Right. It's roughly around 6% in today's market. That's what a seller can expect to pay.
So yeah, there's no standardized commission or anything like that. But Chantel Ray Real Estate is charging 6% of the sales price, and we're offering 3% of that to the agency who brings the buyer. So people say, "Oh gosh, you're making 6%." No, we're making 3%, and we're offering 3% to the agency who brings the buyer.
All right, question number 2. Let's talk about marketing strategies for people's home. When they call you to their house, they want to sell their house. How do we determine how we're going to market this baby?
It's all indicative to the individual client, to be honest with you. I mean, it's really all about the client. So what we do is we meet, we talk about what your goals are, what your needs are, condition of home, whether you're buying on the back end after selling, so forth and so on. But really, the marketing strategy is all about max exposure online. So
which
all the
we
shopping,
do better than anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Nobody out advertises us.
And so we need to know those things about you to know how to help you best, and the things that we're going to put in the comments about your home and about those those lifestyle decisions that a buyer is going to make. But as far as the marketing goes, we are offering every single one of our sellers the exact same marketing plan, and it is heavily online based. I mean, we know that we need to capture the eyeballs online, and it costs a lot of money to do that. And we are not shy about spending some money to get in front of those eyeballs.
And in luxury properties,
we even
go a little above and beyond, putting it in Wall Street Journal and places where
we have a whole
people with
separate,
money.
we have a whole separate luxury marketing that exactly what you said, international, so forth and so on. So,
and we're defining luxury as 500,000 and above.
Right.
So it's maybe not, when people think luxury, they're thinking multi-million-dollar homes. 500 and above, we're classifying as luxury, and you're getting an extra marketing package to be one of our luxury clients.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the next question would be, how do I prepare my house for sale?
And we've talked about that a couple times before, and we don't have a blanket statement for that. I really think the most important point to get across is let us be a part of that process. Call us out to your house before you do anything. Let us consult with you. It's totally free. We're going to give you some great pointers. We're going to listen to what you think you want to do and maybe massage that a little bit.
Right, and that goes exactly into what I was describing earlier about that marketing plan, because the marketing is how you present the home, right? So do we paint? Do we do carpet? Do we stage? Is the home vacant that actually needs additional furniture and things like that? And so it's all relative to the individual seller's needs.
And we know how important those pictures are in that online marketing. And to what you're saying is we need to maximize what those pictures are going to look like. And therefore maximize our online marketing.
Yeah. So and something I like to do and tell my sellers is, hey, listen, I want to spend the least amount of money and make the most amount of impact.
That's right.
To get your house ready to go.
Always.
So on that note, then let's talk about the next question, which is, how do we come up with the sales price?
Well, it's exactly like what an appraiser is going to do. So we have to determine what something is worth today by looking at what sold yesterday.
That
right. Is of like value.
Yeah.
Meaning same square footage, right? Definitely the same neighborhood or subdivision if possible. No further out than a radius of 1 mile.
Right.
And yeah, really just comparing and contrasting. Now there are adjustments up and down for, like, let's say a pool. Maybe a singular bathroom that wasn't.
Or a water.
Maybe the houses are a little bit different in size.
On the water, we'll give you more value.
Water influence is what we call it in the business. That's it. That's absolutely an adjustment for sure.
And so most houses in Hampton Roads are in a subdivision. We're pretty easily finding multiple sales of very similar properties in your subdivision. But some properties, could be out in Suffolk and maybe it's on 38 acres.
Right.
And it's a little more difficult to find comparables. So
one that I have now is, let's say in a given neighborhood, all the houses are going to be very, very similar, like a subdivision, like a developed subdivision. Well, if a seller has done a large addition, right? I have a seller right now that added 1,600 square feet. There's nothing like it in the neighborhood.
Right.
So then, of course, that's matching that home and pulling from far out. And sometimes that's what you need to do, and realize that sometimes for you sellers that we're going to be setting the market. So if you have a very unique home, it's important for us to get in there, really know value and understand that we're trying to set the market.
That's a good point. If the biggest home to sell in your neighborhood in the last year is 3,000 square feet and yours is 5,000 square feet, we're going to either go outside of the neighborhood or try to do a price per square foot adjustment. But that's where we come in to not only are we going to give you our opinion, but we're going to tell you how we arrived at that opinion. And send you all of those comparables that we're using so you can look through them and make sure you agree with our assessment.
And that's why it's so important to have somebody who knows what they're doing in all aspects of selling your home, especially when it comes to deciding the value.
Yeah,
because pricing it right means everything. Okay, so one more quick question before we have to leave for this episode. Let's talk about closing costs.
Sure.
What can people expect to pay in closing costs?
Yeah. So market standard still is that the seller will pay 3% of the buyer's closing costs. Right? Still market standard. However, there's a big however in there.
And so this, just like the first question, kind of can be broken up into what buyers can expect and what sellers can expect.
Because it's two different levels of closing costs.
Josh has led with what sellers should expect, and that is, I agree with you completely, to pay 3% of the buyer's closing costs. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen, but if it doesn't happen, that means you got multiple offers in the first couple of days.
And that's that however.
And that's that but if I'm sitting down with you trying to tell you what to expect before we start, I'm going to tell you to expect to pay 3% of the sales price.
To expect to pay anything but 3% of the seller's closing costs is not adequately prepping for what is going to come, because unless it's a multiple offer situation like you're saying, John, I mean, you are going to get an offer that has 3% of the buyer's closing costs.
Now, as a seller, my closing costs are not going to be anything compared to the buyer's closing cost amount.
Very true.
So as selling your house and closing your part of it is going to be modest.
I tell a seller to expect 1% of the sales price. And these percentages are loose, right? Because a $50,000 property, 1% is too low.
Yeah. Right.
It's actually going to be more than that. $1 million property, it's too high. It's not going to be anywhere near that. So I would say that the 3% buyer closing costs and the 1% seller closing costs works really well in the, call it 200 to 500,000
And I would like to wrap up this portion by saying that more often than we've seen before, sellers are paying reduced closing costs or none at all. And it's really all about your first impression. So it's about listing the home right where it needs to be, not padding, not over listing above where we think that we should, because when a home is priced exactly where it needs to be, then those multiple offers are going to come. It's important that, okay, well, do I replace the carpet or whether I don't? If you have the ability to do so, replace the carpet, because it's just going to pull in all of these buyers, and then the buyers will be competing against themselves. And I've seen, just like you have, I mean, we talk about it all the time, how more and more sellers are paying reduced to no closing costs at all whatsoever.
But again, your only chance of that is to get into a bidding war at the very beginning. And like you said, if you overshoot the mark at the beginning, that bidding war doesn't happen.
Right.
While the market is definitely improving, I feel like the buyers are more sophisticated than they have ever been in that they are very hesitant to overpay. So it needs to be priced correctly and in good condition to generate that feeding frenzy that we want to see. That's going to net you the most amount of money.
So it's important, as you can see, to make sure you have the right strategies to sell your home. And there's lots of components to that. And that's why these guys like this and, well, all our agents are ready for your call at 717-1003. ChantelRay.com for more information on the web. John McLaren and Josh Chilton, yours truly, Jimmy Ray. Until the next time, Chantel Ray Real Estate. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.